Sarah.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me to talk about, wow, suicide for beginners.
Yes, nice imagery back there. I
Thank you
think
very
that's
much.
me next to your head.
Yes, it's you right there.
That's
Yeah.
me, baby me.
What a, I have a weird warped sense of humor. So this movie was right up my alley,
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
so
deranged.
I can see how a lot of people wouldn't like this movie, but I got a sick sense of humor. So,
Yeah.
but boy, it hit on all buttons, and so it was really really funny. So for all the
Nice.
wrong
Thank
reasons,
you.
but I just loved it. So
Good.
it's funny because George Carlin said you can find humor in anything, that nothing is off limits, because suicide is front and center in this movie, and I hear his words, and I just think that's right. I think anything can be funny in context, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what denotes like truly a dark comedy with this film, is that, suicide itself is no laughing matter. I'm a mental health advocate, so it's something I'm pretty adamant about when talking about the movie, letting people know if this is something you're actually struggling with, reach out, ask for help. But in this particular film, the dark comedy comes about the fact that it's actually not really about suicide. He's just so upset that I don't love him that he writes a suicide note for me, and he tries to kill me, and he fails massively on so many levels. It's a comedy of errors. But I just think it's important to note that people who don't know it, just understand that, suicide is not actually really at all what this film is about. It's just like
It's at the beginning.
warped,
it's at the beginning where he talks about writing the perfect suicide note, but it quickly becomes about a serial killer.
Yes.
So even though it's in the title, even though he explores suicide in the first 10-15 minutes, it really isn't about that.
It's really shows his lack of knowledge about, I mean, I guess being able to kill. I don't know. It's so he's so bad at it, and that it's just too funny, and that's where the dark comedy ensues.
Yeah, because he's hell bent on killing the love of his life, which is your character, Mia, listening to a garage full of people that keep dropping by, he's trying to kill you. So he becomes a serial killer in the making. And is it strange being tied up for the entire movie? I mean, it's just, even though it's just, I would feel so, I would freak out if someone tied me up in any capacity.
It's a good question. It doesn't freak me out. In fact, it was challenging. It was good because as an actor, honestly, I feel like one of the hardest things as an actor is, what do I do with my hands? Sometimes you're standing in a scene. I actually had this happen in the pilot for Resident Alien, where it happened between me and Corey Reynolds, Elizabeth Bowen, and Alan Tudyk. It was literally like our first scene together, and we were all standing there, and we all were like, how should we stand? So a couple of us chose this, one of us chose this. And so it's nice, actually. It's funny because that's so awkward. You're like, when we're talking, you don't think about it. I'm using my hands a lot just talking to you, but using your hands that much on camera can come across like too much. And so sometimes it's really nice. Like this film, for instance, I didn't even have to worry about it.
That's why actors love props. That's why actors love props. They have something in their hand, like a cane or whatever. That's why people love Shakespeare.
An action. Yes, Jeff, you got it.
It's funny, even though you love your being tied up, a noose around your neck, that, even though it was play acting, it was pretty convincing. Did it kind of freak you out sometimes, or? So
the noose definitely was, obviously we handled it really carefully, and just so that I didn't get any sort of rope burn or anything. Like there was some cloth back there to give me some room, but I will say that moment in the film where he is starting to string me up on the bed I can say I didn't need much to go to the emotional place I was in, because that is when you really let yourself feel that around your neck and feel what that might feel like for people who have maybe been in that position before. It's really, really haunting. And that is, it was definitely a hard day, but hard because it was emotional organically. And yeah, it definitely, it messes with you a little bit. I had to take a day or two just to like wash that feeling off.
I was going to say, even the dark joke where he's watching a YouTube how to tie a noose, So just even the history of lynching or execution or suicide, just the sign of a noose, looking at it is just one of the most disturbing things in my opinion, just to even see, so.
Yes,
But
agreed.
I love how Mia's handy with a nail gun though. So did you have much practice with that?
I had to learn how to hold it. I was actually taught. I mean, that's why I think my hands are like this. You see one hand and one hand down here.
Right.
If you had left me to my own devices, I would have probably shot myself in the face with that staple gun. I mean, I'm so glad that there was someone there to teach me how you would like maybe hold it if you were pointing it at someone, because that's not what it is used for.
Of course not. Yeah.
But it was funny because that would be something that Mia would know how to use and
Right.
Sara does not. So that was a real distinct difference.
She's an
I had
artist.
to learn.
Yeah, she's an artist, so she knows how to use tools, right?
Yeah.
Especially rabbits.
Right.
I love the kid with the crutches. I mean, that he
Oh.
didn't say anything, but man, he had the best expressions. I mean, he just stole every scene he was in.
He's so good. He's such a wonderful kid. He actually, our makeup artist, Ash Christ, that's her son. So we got a chance to get to know them as a family unit, which was so sweet. And she was just like so proud watching him the whole time. But he was just such a fun kid. It reminds me a lot of working with Judah, who plays Max on Resident
Right,
Alien.
yes.
I've had a chance to really work with some really brilliant kids in my career so far, which is nice.
And of course, the great Sid Haig, one of his final appearances, it's bittersweet,
Yes.
but boy, he knocks it out of the park for this one.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I got to be a part of one of his final performances. He's had an incredible career. And, he's somebody that when you see him on film, he plays really aggressive, like, forward in your face kind of roles, but he's a real gentle giant in person. He had great stories. He brought margaritas for everyone on the last day of shooting for
awesome.
him.
Yeah.
He had his own trailer, which was so cool because at the time I'm just this like starry-eyed, like dreamy actor. And for Sid to show up with his own trailer was just so badass. You were just like, Sid's here.
He's a legend. He was a legend.
He's a legend. I'm so glad we got to see him do his final piece of work.
And finally today, the director, Craig Fearman, this is his directorial debut. And I read up on him. He used to be, or not used to be, he got to start in cinematography. That's why this movie looks so spectacular. I noticed the lighting and just how sharp it looked. It looked fantastic, but it was a journey getting this movie made and distributed, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, he has, God, I just texted with him this morning and I said, congratulations on a decade of work. I mean, and it might even be longer than that. He started with an idea. He wrote the whole thing. He came up with, that thing in the beginning where there's like the monkey and the contraption where the ball's going down and whatever. Like he built that with his own hands. He shot everything. He started with this short and then tried to get funding from there to make it into a feature. And even from there had some hiccups. And once we made the feature, there were hiccups while we were shooting. And then there were hiccups afterwards with funding. And so the fact that he's finally able to get it, distributed and seen and premiered is so rewarding. It's just a wonderful reminder to those of us in the business that to never give up. Like it takes time sometimes, but yours is coming. Yours is coming for you.
He's got a great style. So I'm really eager to see what he does next because this was a brilliant right out of the gate. So he's got a lot of talent. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited for it.
And finally, I just wanted to say how much I love you on Resident Alien. I just love it. And you're Native American, right?
Yes, I have Native heritage, but I'm not a citizen. So it's important to note that because, as we've learned about representation these days, it's important to note that I am mostly just a Native ally who's there to, showcase on the show that I am welcomed by the community. But I have so many Indigenous actors and actresses that I get to work with who live on the res or who have been a part of, their own community in a way that they're representing, first and forefront. So I'm so excited to be a part of that community, but to also be able to witness and stand back and let them sort of take the mic and tell us what their representation, you know, is.
Well, my roommates Navajo and his family love you on that show and the representation. So I just want to know that you're loved in that community, at least in the Navajo community. I know you are.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really important, Chris Sheridan, the writer, and I, for us to really get the representation part of it correct, you know, because that's a small part of my heritage. It was important that we showcase that Asta was adopted and that that's still a community that is very open-armed and welcoming, especially since she was raised by her father, you know, Dan, who's played by Gary Farmer. And it's something that she goes through in the show, actually, is trying to figure out who she really is and what that really means. And I think, you know, from the Indigenous actors I've been able to talk to in my career, they've all had this wonderful way of having this hope about representation and wanting more for characters on screen to just be Indigenous, but not be treated like cliche, not to be treated with this like cliche feather or you know, there's just so much.
Yeah,
thank you. The word, thank you. I was like, the word is eluding me. Stereotyping.
Well,
exactly.
They notice your performance. They notice the representation. So you're loved, and it's just, you're doing a great job. So
thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jeff.
Well, congratulations on Suicide for Beginners. Really funny, and I've enjoyed our conversation. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you. So good to see you.